those Guyanese, people who are non-Guyanese, people who are watching this case carefully. And the question is that's lingering in the minds of individuals: why? Why have they, the authority in Guyana, mainly the government of Guyana, why are they so quick in wanting to cover up this case? Perception, mind you, out there, that the covering up of this case, as opposed to say, let us have a fair and a transparent autopsy. Let us have an independent investigation in this matter. Invite real investigators. You don't go to Canada because one man is connected to somebody at the PPP and you take him to Guyana and you pay him close to 100,000 US dollars to just scribble something quickly and to say, oh, everything is okay, and left the country, when in fact everything is not okay. The parents want answers, and that is why they took their little girl all the way to Gwinnett County for a second autopsy. And that is exactly what they did. They are getting closer to the truth. The second autopsy was conducted by Gwinnett medical examiner, Dr. Carol Terry. We should be hearing from Dr. Carol Terry through Travis Chase, maybe sometime during the course of the night. Let's prepare for Tom Anderson is with us tonight. We just got a note. Our executive producer says Tom Anderson was quickly invited to join us here tonight, and we should be joined by Wayne Caesar as well. We have lots to talk within the next 45 minutes. Shame on the corrupt PPP regime. Shame on these vagabonds. We'll be right back with Tom Anderson, and hopefully later on we will have Wayne Caesar as well. We'll be right back, guys.
Sorry for mother dog, him turn round by two. And if you jump out a frying pan, and sorry for mother dog, him turn round by two. And if you jump out a frying pan, I know you jump in a fire, yeah. I said you're sorry for mother dog, him a go turn round by two. And if you jump out a frying pan, I know you jump in a fire. See, you come from country in a...
All right, then. That seemed to be the going tune all across. Well, if you know, you know. Good night again, and welcome to Straight Up. If you're now joining us, we have Tom Anderson with us. Mr. Anderson, good night, and again, welcome. It seems as though you're fixed now. 90? Are we still at 90 days, or are we 8 to 9 days before election, sir?
I know, right? We're still at 90, man. 90 days until the day before. That's how we're going to do this one.
90 days before. Tom, we have some developing story, and we get straight to that, sir. Let me just say that hopefully soon, if not tonight, maybe tomorrow, we will hear through Travis Chase, of course, who is in Atlanta, Gwinnett County. And this is Gwinnett County medical examiner, Dr. Carol Terry. Earlier, we, according to Travis Chase, it says breaking news, quote, I would, and this is the medical examiner, is saying, I would be very reluctant to determine that Adriana Young drowned. This call for a thorough criminal investigation, says Chief Medical Examiner of the Gwinnett County office, and that chief medical examiner is Dr. Carol Terry. Tom, talk to us, please. No surprise
Hey,
here at all, based
yeah.
on public's perception.
Yeah, I mean, look, good evening, everyone. And, it takes time for the truth to surface, especially in a nation like Guyana. It takes a lot of time, actually. And it takes a lot of persistence. It takes a lot of prayer. It takes a lot, man. And I mean, people have gone out all over the world with candlelight vigils. People have taken to social media. People have begged, pleaded, and through all of this, the PPP have stood there with their 5 or 6 different stories of what happened or what's going on, basically covering it up, right? Standing against the tide of the truth. And look, they've done the best they can do, holding up this wall to make it so that the truth can't come through. But I think everyone who's watching right now and everyone who's been attentive to the situation could feel in their gut that it was just a matter of time before the truth would come through. And so now we're starting to see the light break through the medical examiner up there in Gwinnett County in Georgia. And so the light is starting to break through. And now it's time for people to start to ask themselves, the people who are involved in this, are you going to stay silent? Are you going to continue to believe that the PPP can stand there and block the truth from coming to light? I don't think you can. And so I'm going to make I said this last night, I'm going to say it again tonight. I believe the people who know what happened, someone needs to come forward and talk. Okay. That's what's really going to put this down. Now, you have the opportunity to do it. I say you should. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But I will say this, one way or the other, the truth is going to come out. For those who are involved, I say come clean now. Don't wait. Don't wait. It's best to come clean now. If I'm the PPP, I'm reevaluating everything right now. Everything. And you have to. Because there's no way you can have a situation, an international situation like this, where they flew experts in and everything else. And all of this went in one direction, which was nothing happened to this child except she drowned in this pool. But then you have the medical examiner in Gwinnett County coming back and saying, no, that's not what happened. You can't have this in the real world. You cannot have a government that stands on a mountain of lies like this on such a huge issue and think that everything can be fine and everyone's just going to go about their business. That's not the case here. So if I'm the PPP, I'm reevaluating, I'm moving on this. And I think for everyone's sake, whether you're in the PPP or the opposition, whoever you are, I think it's for everyone's sake right now to start coming clean, start telling the truth, and start standing for the truth so that justice can be brought forth for Adriana and her family, who are suffering greatly through all of this.
Thank you so much, Tom Anderson. And for those of you who are now joining us, the chief medical examiner for Gwinnett County, Carol Terry, has earlier, according to Travis News, and we quote here again, according to Travis News, the medical examiner says that I would be very reluctant to determine that Adriana Young drowned. This calls for a thorough criminal investigation. And now this is a professional. This is the doctor. This is the pathologist, the chief medical examiner of Gwinnett County out there in Atlanta, Georgia, is saying that she would be very reluctant to determine that she drowned. In other words, you guys obviously know that in interpreting what she's saying there is that Adriana Young, possibility exists and a very high possibility that she was murdered. And after she was murdered, this is what the aunt alluded to in terms of the marks of violence on this little girl's body. That on the top of her forehead has like a mark like on that. That appears either she was hit or she was forced to the ground or something of that sort. And what this chief medical examiner is saying is that in order to get to the bottom of this, Tom, as we all have been saying, except the PPP regime, what this chief medical examiner is saying is that it calls for a thorough criminal investigation. Now, Irfan Ali and the PPP believe that they have already done a thorough investigation, and that's it. They brought a so-called a one man from Toronto or somewhere there in Canada to do some investigations, and he says there's no foul play. He's not a forensic expert. He's not a pathologist. He's obviously not a doctor. He went down there and he says no foul play, and he left. Talk to us, please, Mr. Anderson.
Well, what does it tell you when these guys can fly professionals in from other countries and they come down and they do a hatchet job, a cover-up job, knowing what's happening here, knowing that the life of an innocent child was taken? You know, what's going on here? You know, how I'm wondering to myself, right? I know the PPP, these guys do corrupt things. But just how down low evil are they going to be on this is the question, because it's getting to the point now where, you know, we all know they've been really ridiculous, but they're pushing it to the point that, you know, you have to totally be detached from reality to accept where they're going with all of this. And so I just think at this point, man, like I say, people need to come clean. The PPP needs to reassess this. I think this needs to go in a totally different direction. I believe it's time now for everyone to get serious, no matter where you are politically. If you're a PPP supporter right now and you're watching this show, you have to look at this situation. You have to say, look, man, I can't support the PPP and their stance on this. I want for my country justice for an innocent life taken. Okay, that should be everyone. That should be everyone. And that's where we should be at now. And I think that's where the discussion should be at this point is, you know, when is the justice going to come, and when is the PPP going to get out of the way of the justice that needs to come on this issue?
Well said, Tom. You know, I just read a comment from someone. I don't know, it disappeared. If our operator can there's an Andrea. Donna is saying, did the pathologist actually, in her words, wrote that report? It's not a report yet, Andrea. And this is a quote, and that is why we're waiting to hear directly from the pathologist. We have said that in the beginning of the program. And this is what, according to Travis Chase, and Travis Chase, I'm sure, will not misquote this chief medical examiner of Gwinnett County. And this is what the quote says. It's a quote. It's not a report. It says, I would be very reluctant to determine that Adriana Young drowned. This calls for a thorough criminal investigation. That is all we're saying, according to what we got off of Travis Chase's report. So this is not a report. She did not issue a report. Hopefully we will hear from her through Travis Chase. Hopefully. We want to get to the bottom of that. Tom, how much as we clinched towards, and we see there's a doubter here already, and we don't want to go that route. The doubting Toms, obviously they're not listening. Now we go back again, whoever Andrea Donna is, and it's suspicious, mind you now, and, you know, says, we have not seen the signed copy. Of course, are you talking about, I hope I'm not mistaken here. Are you talking about the signed copy from Guyana or this new medical examiner? Andrea Donna, please let us know so we can know that you're not here to disrupt the truth, that is. So, Tom, elections are going to be slated to be held September 1st, which is around the corner, 90 days, as we've been saying all along. It's going to stay 90 days. Are you now getting this feeling that the reason why the PPPC just wanted to just get this thing over with, move on, that they probably knew that this little girl was actually murdered? Just a question in terms of your opinion.
Well, my opinion is this: the way that the PPP government has approached this situation from day one has not been in a responsible way. It hasn't been in a way that a government should respond, because it's simple. when a little when a young child goes missing, okay, in a country the size of Guyana, right? It's not a big country. So when a young child goes missing and it becomes a national incident where everyone's looking for the child, it's the government's job to bring justice to that situation. It's not the government's job to make it just go away. It's not the government's job to tell people to go home. It's not the government's job. I've never seen in my life government officials tell volunteers who want to look for a missing child to go home and not look. I've never in my life. That's when I knew something was wrong. So their entire approach from the beginning was backwards. It was an approach that if you're someone who's wondering, hey, is it safe for my children to be in a nation like Guyana? You have to doubt whether it's safe or not. And here's the reason why. Because if your child goes missing, it's highly likely the police are going to tell you just go home and don't worry, she'll show up because she just ran off with somebody. That's what they're going to tell you. Okay, that's what happened in this case. And so who wants to live in a society where law enforcement, when a child goes missing, they are trying everything in their power to make everyone go away and not look for the child? Who wants to live in that world? Well, that's the world of Guyana right now. And so you have to ask yourself a question. Why are the police and the government so intent on making sure that a missing child stays missing? Why were they from the beginning pushing as hard as possible to tell everyone who wanted to look for the child not to look for the child and to go home and just sit around and do nothing all day? Why would police do that? Why would a government do that? That's been my problem from day one. And since they started off this situation like that, all they've done ever since is get in the way of the truth of what happened here. And that's what's unfortunate. And I'm just saying, it's time they stopped. It's time they took a 180-degree turn on this and started to think about the young children in their country and start thinking about protecting them and start thinking about going after perpetrators who attack these innocent children, because that's what we have right now. Is there is a perpetrator loose right now in Guyana, more than likely loose in Guyana, that murdered this young girl, maybe several perpetrators, and they're running loose, having a good time, and the government is doing everything in its power to ensure they can continue to do that. That's not how a nation should be run. It's very close to an election. This is going to be a huge election issue for them. That's why they're still trying to cover it up. But I'm going to say it again. The truth needs to be told. They need to come clean, and they need to come clean now.
Well said. It seems as though we lost Mr. Wayne Caesar. Hopefully we'll join back by Mr. Caesar. We want to get his side as well, his opinion. And, you know, we have been on this here, all of us, including you, Tom, including Wayne, including all of you in the audience as well. It's like these folks, Adriana Young's family, her parents, we have all now become her family, part of her family. It takes a village. And we are feeling the pain that the pains that the family, the parents, and all of these folks are going through at this point in time. And all they were asking for all the time is for justice. Not only justice, they want to be satisfied. They want to be comfortable that a proper report, a proper investigation was done. And they could not have gotten that in Guyana. They came all the way to the United States of America for that, something that the government of Guyana deprived them. And you're correct about this, Tom. When we look at the sequence of event, we heard about the red car and even government officials telling them to go home, even police, senior police officers misleading them by saying, look, she left in a car, just go home, just leave, and all these sort of things. Tom, it is heartbreaking. But what is even more heartbreaking is that you have a government or government officials and even senior police officers who appear to be somewhat complicit in this crime, somewhat complicit in this crime. Mr. Caesar is back with us, but before we get a quick opinion from Wayne, let us just take briefly what this father did, the father of Adriana Young, what he did and how he was crying out to the police to do something, to go in and search. They never did. And this proves exactly the point that you were making, Tom. Let's go to that tape.
I turned to the inspector, asked the inspector, why only two persons must allow to one side? I don't feel like two persons. Me and me girl alone can't start the phone. Here, me, I listen. I standing here since 2 o'clock. You ain't know how long I standing here. You hear? No, you don't know how long I standing here. You check the time. That was 1:30. Here in the morning. Here, can you? If this man, the owner for this place, had a heart, at the time when we going to ask him what's going on, the man will go and say, I want you to listen, I don't go to church, I got bad vibes. Yeah? I don't go to church. The man, if he had a heart, when he come and hear a religion mission, he will turn and say, yeah, come and sacrifice, I have to believe. You hear? I don't have nothing to lose. Yeah, come and start this place, because I don't have nothing to do with it. Y'all be quiet, y'all be quiet. Y'all be quiet.
All right, we heard that. That's the father of Adriana Young is explaining. He's saying, hey, wait a minute. They pleaded with those people. They are pleaded with the police. Everyone ignored them. Let's go for a brief comment there from Mr. Wayne Caesar as it pertains to the latest development of this autopsy report. Mr. Caesar, good night and welcome to Straight Up.
Good evening, Mark. Good evening, and good evening to all the listeners and viewers. Good evening, Mr. Thomas Anderson also. Look, Mark, it's not surprising, okay, that this medical examiner here is coming out and taking a different position. It is quite startling, though, because you would expect some measure, of independence when it comes to, getting the job done from the first 3 pathologists that would have performed the first autopsy on young Adriana Young. Listen, I have to give a whole lot of kudos to the Guyanese people here, because they did not fall for what came out, the results that came out from that first autopsy. They kept on pressing, and here we go. We have this pathologist is rendering and saying something different, that they're hard pressed to believe that this girl died from drowning. And it is interesting because here we are still gathering evidence here, and there's more to go here, right? There's more work that needs to be done here. But the preliminary decision right now is that, they are hard pressed to believe that Adriana Young died from drowning. And look, it's not a surprise.
If you can stick a note there, let's go stick a pin, please, as we move on. Let's go straight to Atlanta there, and you will get to hear the medical examiner. For those of you who may have missed it, here is the medical examiner compliments of HGPTV Nightly News.
Just because I don't see any physical manifestation of trauma doesn't mean that someone cannot or was not murdered. There are ways in which you can kill someone and not leave any demonstrable trauma on the body. Basically, you just have to interfere with their ability to breathe. And in some cases, it may involve somehow constricting their chest or maybe putting pressure on their neck. And you don't always wind up breaking structures in the neck or bruising structures in the neck. So sometimes you can have asphyxial type deaths or deaths where adequate blood flow and oxygen doesn't get to the brain and not leave any trauma to the body.
Thank you, Doc. In conclusion, you would say that Adriana Young's death is highly suspicious.
Yes, I would.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Highly suspicious. Tom, take the first bite of this, please. Highly suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, this lines up with, the entire, all of the events that occurred since she went missing. Everything has been highly suspicious. Everything. The story about Orlando in the red car, highly suspicious. The story that the hotel has no security cameras at all, highly suspicious. The fact that the police didn't secure the crime scene or the scene where she was last seen at, or where they found her body in the pool. The fact they didn't secure it and they left it there and a fire started and burned everything down, highly suspicious. And so we just keep going on and on and on with everything so highly suspicious. And during this entire endeavor, you have a family that's suffering here, a family that needs justice. You have a nation that's looking at this and saying, no matter what the government is saying, we don't believe what you're saying. We're looking at what our eyes are telling us, and we believe our eyes on this. And our eyes are telling us something is highly suspicious here. This is not normal. And when it's something is highly suspicious, the government is supposed to act in a very aggressive way to protect those who are innocent. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. And in this highly suspicious situation, they haven't reacted in a way where they've gone after the truth, where they've gone after justice, where they've gone to protect the innocent. They've done everything to make it to be that anyone who's potentially a criminal, they can get away with this scot-free with no one getting caught. That's been the government's approach. I don't understand why. I don't know. The only explanation is they need to cover it up for some reason. But why? That's what everyone wants to know. And it's ridiculous.
Elections, Tom. Elections around the corner. That could possibly be why. But before we go back, thank you, Tom. Before we go back to Wayne, let me welcome all of our listeners, wherever you are. The second autopsy was done on the body of Adriana Young, the little girl that most Guyanese believe she was murdered at that hotel. So the medical examiner spoke not so long ago with Travis Chase there in Atlanta. We'll go back to that, and then we'll get Wayne's take again.
Just because I don't see any physical manifestation of trauma doesn't mean that someone cannot or was not murdered. There are ways in which you can kill someone and not leave any demonstrable trauma on the body. Basically, you just have to interfere with their ability to breathe. And in some cases, it may involve somehow constricting their chest or maybe putting pressure on their neck. And you don't always wind up breaking structures in the neck or bruising structures in the neck. So sometimes you can have asphyxial type deaths or deaths where adequate blood flow and oxygen doesn't get to the brain and not leave any trauma to the body.
Thank you, Doc. In conclusion, you would say that Adriana Young's death is highly suspicious.
Yes, I would.
All right. So you heard it. That's the chief medical examiner there in Gwinnett County. One or two of the doubters who were questioning whether the report was signed or whatever, you heard directly. And this is where transparency exists. We've got to say thank you for this. This is the sort of transparency we're looking for. Wayne Caesar, sir.
Yeah, and thank you again, Mark. Look, we got to also keep in mind here that this medical examiner is working with much, higher standard equipment also than is present in Guyana. Not giving an excuse for the decision made in Guyana by the 3 pathologists that performed the first autopsy. But this is the United States of America, okay? And they typically have the best of the best. So when they're doing one of these autopsy, one of these examinations, they're working with the best equipment. All right. Listen, and the medical examiner is correct, Mark, because you can put someone in a headlock, right? And it could create a lack of oxygen going to the brain, and the person would pass out. So if you continue to hold that person in the headlock while they're passed out, that could equate to death eventually. So she is on point with that. That being said, Mark, the Guyana police force, there should be consequences for dereliction of duty. The Guyana police force, and by extension the government, would have failed this family miserably, okay? And it should not go unpunished. There should be consequences, and many may ask, is there grounds? Yes, they can be lawsuits brought against the Guyana police force, all right? They totally failed this family. Look, they could have been outside there securing this hotel because the girl was not in the pool. The quote unquote drowning never occurred in the pool. There was nobody in the pool. All right. My thinking is that this young lady could have still been alive. Well, young girl could have still been alive somewhere on the grounds of that hotel, in the hotel, tied up, whatever. Okay. And the police is out there. So this is so concerning. This is so concerning that some of those police are still on the job, right? This government should be totally ashamed of themselves. It is time for the PPP to go. Air Finale and all of them. And I know Tom was speaking earlier what it is that they're trying to hide. Well, they cannot open the Pandora box. The Pandora box got information on anybody, on everybody. So if you sell out one, then that one is going to drop information on everybody. But I strongly believe the time for the PPP is up. The Guyanese people need to start opening their eyes. The people who are backing the PPP, okay, you guys are going to be carrying the blood of that young girl on your hands, okay, because this government has failed that family. Over to you, Mark.
You're muted, Mark.
Yeah, sorry. As we go back to what this, sorry about that, guys. As we go back to what this pathologist has just concluded, as we try to get to the bottom of this specific information that was just related to Travis Chase, how does this, Tom, how does this make the Guyana Police Force look at this point in time? And not just the Guyana Police Force, how does it make these three pathologists look?
Well, we don't even know what their report is, those three pathologists. You know, I said from day one, I want to see the pathology report before I make a judgment on the job that these guys did. If you notice, that report has never been released to this day. So we just don't know what's in that report. So I don't want to comment on these guys because I just don't know what's in the report. I do know, like I said before, that they signed non-disclosure agreements and they're not allowed to talk about anything. I guarantee you that. So that's why they're probably going to be silent. They can only talk if the government of Guyana lets them talk, right? So they're probably not going to talk. And until we see the report, you know, we don't know what's going to be in there. And I wonder to myself if maybe the reason why the PPP have held back the report is because they, just in case another autopsy was done, that they maybe could go in and maybe change the report. I don't know.
Good, Tom.
But all I have to say is,
Tom, as a former government watchdog, you keep talking about this disclosure, non-disclosure document that could have possibly been signed by these guys. One of them happens to be the chief medical examiner of the state of Delaware. Do you think that he went there in his personal capacity, or as a result, he went there as chief medical examiner of the state of Delaware? In other words, taxpayers' time. And if that's the case, does the non-disclosure document, does that take any effect? Or can that be, is that a breach of his...
the document, well, if no crime was committed, then that document is locked in, and whether he went as a government official or not, he's not going to be able to talk. That'll just be the case. If a crime was committed, then he can talk. There's no...
But in this case, Tom, not to cut you, in this case, there's this widespread perception that a crime was committed.
With Adriana, but unless there was a crime committed concerning the report, right? There's nothing that he's going to have to just stay silent. And I guarantee he signed an agreement. He definitely signed an agreement. Okay. They all did. And so whether they're going there as government officials or not, see, this is the problem with not having transparency. This is why I always call for governments to open up the books and let people know what's going on. We don't know really what's going on. The PPP hasn't released any documents as to why, like, they didn't release the contract that was signed with these medical examiners? That's not around. No one knows anything. And so everyone's flying blind, and the PPP are telling the world, just trust us on this one. And yet here we have a medical examiner out of Gwinnett County, Georgia, saying, no, don't trust them on this one. There's something wrong here. So now we're at a stalemate, and we have a family who's been victimized here, and they want justice. And we have a lot of people who want justice, and everyone's stuck now because the PPP, they're hiding behind non-disclosure. They're keeping everything a secret, and they're telling everyone, hey, just trust us and don't pay attention to what anyone else says, including this medical examiner from Gwinnett County. Now, why would anyone want to ignore this person? No one's going to do that. Everyone's going to listen to this. So like I say, the PPP has to reverse course. They have to tell the truth on this. And just look, elections around the corner. This is going to have an impact. If they're talking to their political advisors, it's time to come clean and tell the truth. It's time to go after the people who murdered this child and throw them in jail. That's it. And that's all that needs to be done at this point.
They're looking more at the elections. They're not going to come clean. Let's take you guys now on the night that this little girl, Adriana Young, went missing. We'll take you right to that pool. And who other than you know who did it for all the world to see.
We check this.
Sorry about that.
That is saying 7 feet 6 inches, 5 feet 5 inches. If you look at it, right? They're saying 5'5". They're saying 7'6". They're saying 8 feet. So for 8 feet is reasonable depth for a pool. So you would have to go in and check in the pool, right? The young lady is not in the pool. So it could be ruled out that she drowned.
You know, Tom and Wayne, we can see, at least from where I am, I can see the pool. And from where that guy and others were on that night, you're telling me that they could not, they could see. And he said it for everyone to hear. Whether you're human beings, whether you're a dog, even the dogs around there heard as well. That there was nothing in that pool. That little girl was not in the pool. And then, guess what? This popped up.
That is saying 6.
We checked this pool this morning. We checked this pool this morning. This young lady was not in this pool. This girl was not in this pool. This girl was not in this pool. She was not in here. We checked in this pool. The girl was not in there this morning when we come here. We went in this place. This girl was not in here. The girl was not in there, boy. What the fuck? They put this girl in this pool, boy. The fucking girl they went in there. We went in there just now, boy. What the fuck, boy? That's why they didn't want nobody come in the place. They didn't want nobody come in the place. What? That girl was not in the pool. We was here since 7:40 this morning. That girl was not in the pool at 7:40. She was not in the pool at 7:40. What the girl knee has scrape up. Watch how this girl is. The girl knee scrape up. Clearly shows.
Okay, so you guys, all of you, wherever you're watching, whether in Guyana, outside of Guyana, the widespread perception is that Adriana Young was murdered. She was just 11 years old. Her family, her parents, and everybody, including all of us want justice. And the question is, why is the government of Guyana and why is the police force covering up this crime? Wayne Caesar, as we specifically deal with what the medical examiner of Gwinnett County said, how does that make the police force look right now?
Incompetent. Listen, Mark, it shows that, there's some kind of cover up that is happening here. When the Guyanese critic went over that pool there, you had floodlights illuminating right into the pool. Sure, you could see all the way down to the bottom. He confirmed that there wasn't a body there. Everybody could have seen, looking into that pool, there wasn't a body there. I know some people try to claim that the water was murky and all of this stuff. No, lame excuse. Critic himself said that there was no body there. Now, to all of a sudden see this young lady appear, this young child appear in that pool, she was planted there. And it's shameful. In the background, you was able to see a police gentleman with water, his jeans wet all the way up almost to his knees. Okay. You can see that there was water around the platform, around the pool. Nobody was swimming there at that time, which is, suspicious, very, very suspicious. And look, there's no excuse. There's no excuse that the Guyana police force can come up with here, or the government can come up with. This is absolutely obvious what would have happened here. And listen, this child was murdered. I have a right to my opinion. And in my opinion, this child was murdered. She didn't drown in the pool. The pool had many people that afternoon. Nobody saw a child struggling, drowning. Okay? The pool was also examined later on in the evening. A body was not there. A body appeared all of a sudden. And then, Mark, what is also questionable is how the Guyana police force just locked off this hotel to everybody. You were not allowed to enter. And then once that body was in that pool, everybody was allowed to enter. I mean, come on. Come on. It is obvious what would have happened here. And this needs to be, there need to be a complete forensic investigation done here. This needs to be investigated thoroughly. I believe, and I don't know if it's going to happen because they have not requested the FBI. The FBI needs to come and they need to rebuild and put back together this crime scene. It's not going to be an easy job, but they are capable of doing it. To get this right. This needs to be, we need to get this right. The Guyanese people are not going to rest until this is right, because if we don't get this right, it's going to continue to happen. It is not the first time that this has occurred, but the magnitude of this one and the way it occurred. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Wayne Caesar there. Tom, as we specifically deal with this, what is now an obvious embarrassment of the Guyana police force, the leadership of the Guyana police force. We can assume a lot of them are watching right now. Based on what we just heard from that medical examiner, what specific message you have for the leadership of the Guyana police force, Tom?
Oh, I mean, look, my main message is this, the number one priority for any police force is for them to protect the innocent and to serve justice when needed. All right, that's it. And so my thing to them is this, if they're not doing something to protect young children like Adriana Young, then they're not doing their jobs. And they need to evaluate that themselves, each one personally. They have to do that. I'm not their boss. They have their bosses. But at the end of the day, it does come down to something really simple if you're a police officer. And it's this: are you going to protect innocent young children, or are you going to cover up their murders? That's the question. And if you're a police officer, I don't understand why you would put on that uniform and sacrifice as much as you do if you're not going to protect the young, innocent children. That's my take, man. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tom. As we go back to what the medical examiner out in Gwinnett County said just maybe about 45 minutes or so. If you're now joining us, this is what the medical examiner said after the second autopsy was conducted. Let's head over there.
That just because I don't see any physical manifestation of trauma doesn't mean that someone cannot or was not murdered. There are ways in which you can kill someone and not leave any demonstrable trauma on the body. Basically, you just have to interfere with their ability to breathe. And in some cases, it may involve somehow constricting their chest or maybe putting pressure on their neck. And you don't always wind up breaking structures in the neck or bruising structures in the neck. So sometimes you can have asphyxial type deaths or deaths where adequate blood flow and oxygen doesn't get to the brain and not leave any trauma to the body.
Thank you, Doc. In conclusion, you would say that Adriana Young's death is highly suspicious.
Yes, I would.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, highly suspicious, highly suspicious. But what we're seeing here, what we witnessed there by this pathologist, the chief medical examiner of Gwinnett County, and that interview with Travis Chase is what you call transparency. Gentlemen, briefly, as we look at the time, beginning with Wayne, why couldn't we see this sort of transparency in Guyana immediately following the autopsy, the first autopsy conducted by those three pathologists? Why we didn't see this sort of transparency, and whether the lack of transparency or none whatsoever, period, is the cause for public perception, widespread perception, that Adriana Young was murdered. Why not the transparency in Guyana? Wayne?
Mark, why not the transparency in Guyana? We know the monstrous government that the people of Guyana is dealing with. Okay, now look at this situation. We have a young 11-year-old child here. That's the victim here. Okay, why are you going to have three pathologists come into the country, okay, to do the autopsy and have them sign non-disclosure agreements? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Your people, as a government, you need the people to trust you. And in return, you need to trust your people. But you see, when we talk of this PPPC government and what a sinister government they are, people are quick to run and criticize. But Mark, this is the perfect example. Non-disclosure agreement. That means that the Guyanese people deserve no transparency. None at all whatsoever. We are going to do what we want to do, and that is it. Take it or leave it. That is what it has been, with everything with this government. They go into parliament, the same thing. So it's not just this situation. It is perpetual with this government. Okay? So it doesn't surprise me with the transparency. And plus, we are in Guyana, a third world country, a corrupt country. All right? So I don't expect the measure of transparency that we saw today. All right. But I am happy for the family. I am happy that, they're starting to get justice little by little. And I'm thankful at the same time to the Guyanese people, social media, and everybody involved for standing behind this family. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Tom. As I ask you the same question, and of course, the government of Guyana and the police force, they can't do anything unless the government directs them to do. And they must be ashamed of themselves right now. Before I get Tom's response at the lack of transparency by those three pathologists and the government of Guyana and the police force, we're seeing it plain for all to see, the transparency that this medical examiner came right out and she said, this is how she felt. This is her opinion. This is what she did. She conducted, and she's an expert. Let me just say this, that this Sunday, the Guyana Independence Day parade, the parents, the siblings, and the aunt and others are going to be there at that parade. In my opinion, they deserve something. So when you see them out there in person and you have a little something, whether it's a prayer, whether it's a little hug, or whether it's a little change, whatever it is, they didn't ask me to do it. But once I'm out there, if I'm out there, trust me, I'll put something in their hands directly. They deserve that. They're not asking for it, but they deserve all the help they possibly can get. And when you go out there on Sunday, I know Wayne may be out there to broadcast live right here on 107.1 FM. I never know. But Mr. Tom Anderson, the lack of transparency has caused the widespread perception that the government has something to hide. The police have something to hide as well. We just saw transparency here, Tom, but none in Guyana.
Yeah, it took a lot for us to get the transparency we have now in the United States. And by the way, there are forces here who try to reverse this transparency at every turn. So it's a constant battle to hold on to the transparency we have and to try to maybe expand it a little bit further. I mean, it's a really hard battle because people who are in power, they like to be able to operate without having to be held to account. I mean, that's just it. Most people are like that. Very few people are comfortable being held accountable for everything they do, especially if they're in the government world or public official world, right? And so when it comes to the transparency issue in Guyana, I think the government has to, they need to have some meetings and they have to decide, where are they going to go on this one specific issue of Adriana, because this issue, since it's an international issue and the world is watching, they have, and since it's a simple one, by the way, too, because the government right now, all they have to do is make the decision that they are going to conduct a thorough investigation into this. That's all they have to do. All they have to do is say, look, we understand that people aren't satisfied with what we've done up to this point. We see that there's another medical examiner report come out of Gwinnett County that's bringing into question everything we're saying. Since that's the case, we're going to go in and we're going to reopen this thing. That's the minimum they need to do. And I'm not, I know most people are saying they can't, they're never, it's all going to be a rigged job. They're never going to change. I understand that. But what I'm saying for the people of Guyana right now, at some point, the PPP have to change, because if they don't change, they will bring down the entire nation. You cannot have a situation like this where the government is in charge and they constantly cover up, get in the way of the truth when it entails the murder of a child. Okay, that the entire world, you cannot have that. So either they're going to change or they're going to bring the entire nation down with them. That's where this is. And so I'm saying right now, they need to change. They need to get on board with the people of Guyana. They need to finally get serious, and they need to finally say, look, you know what? We're elected officials. We're responsible. It's our job to protect the innocent. An innocent life was taken. We are going to be on the job. We're going to take care of it. That's what they have to do. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they have to do it not just for themselves, but they have to do it for the nation itself. They have to do it. And that's what I'm standing on. And that's my message to them from here until Election Day, is they need to change their ways, specifically on Adriana. And they need to finally stop playing games and bring real justice to this situation as a government. They can do it. They need to do it.
Tom, for 23 plus years, these vagabonds didn't change. They corrupt the entire country. For 5 years, they haven't changed. They have corrupted the entire country. Everything is a hustle. Everything is corruption upon corruption. We see it every day. We see when their friends fall out with them. We see every single thing. We get to understand the corruption. It is rampant in Guyana. It has got to change. The next 90 days, these vagabonds aren't going to change. They have to be removed from office. And you guys, all of you, have to go out there and vote and make some smart choices. You've got to vote these vagabonds out of office. Some folks are asking, in fact, I got a message from a medical doctor who has said, look, everything that pathologist said, that medical examiner said, is accurate in terms of her opinion, in terms of what she saw, in terms of her autopsy on the body of that little girl. And the medical doctor and all of you are very pleased. All of us are very pleased with what we've heard. And we can just imagine what the parents or how the parents are feeling right now. Now, let me just say this, as you all know. The PPP guys are going to spin this here now because they have a lot to cover up. And they're going to say that, oh, it was just a doctor. Oh, those three experts came in and they just want you guys to believe those three experts. And I agree with Tom. We're not saying that those three experts did anything wrong, because we don't know whether this report that the police medical report or the autopsy report that the police now is forcing upon the nation. Look, this is what they said. We don't know whether that is true. The family of Adriana Young, they were not given a copy of the report. The lawyer was not given a copy of the report. And I'm glad, if I may say, that they finally do have a competent lawyer to oversee this case, and a competent doctor or doctors who are working hard behind the scene. What we saw in the beginning wasn't close to be acceptable. Mr. Wayne Caesar, your closing remarks as it pertains to the way forward with this latest result, sir.
Well, Mark, listen, the way forward, I know Tom, he's, hoping and believing that this government is going to change. But I don't believe that they're going to change. I don't believe that they can change. Okay? The people of Guyana need to be resolute. All right? They need to step up to the table. And Mark, as you would have uttered earlier, they need to place their vote wisely. All right? You saw what happened today between Mohammed and Irfan Ali, right? And going back and forth about that sports car and the fact that Irfan Ali, assisted him in getting that car clear. What I would have seen there is two criminals, because they both would have fallen way short of practicing basic honesty and integrity. Hence the reason that Guyana can be now deemed the corrupt Republic of Guyana instead of the cooperative Republic of Guyana. When you look at these two gentlemen, and they're going to be on the ballot, all right, they are both unfit. They are both unfit to lead Guyana, period. But I say that, and I say that is only unless the people of Guyana is willing to turn a blind eye to all these atrocities, okay? Set aside their own morals and values and make what is obviously wrong that these two gentlemen are doing are right. Because you look at social media and all these people jumping up, Muhammad. Now let me, Mark, just give me an extra 30 seconds. Let me break this down.
We're looking at the time as you take your.
You cannot have a man that would have taken from the Guyanese people. Okay, now playing that he wants to give back and wants to lead the same people that he's been taken from. All these people have gotten rich off of the Guyanese people. And the people needs to open their eyes. Okay, these guys are tied to the PPP hand in hand. And don't worry about all this election thing. That may just be to get the votes out of the black communities and weaken the opposition. So, Guyanese, I'm asking you guys, please wisen up. Give this some thought. All right, examine your minds. Examine what's happening here, please. Thank you so much for having me tonight, Mark. Over to you now.
Thank you. Wayne Caesar there. Tom Henderson. Tom, your book, but I see you're smiling. Your closing remarks, Tom, as we head back here on this medical examiner's report. Most Guyanese are pleased. I wouldn't say they're happy. They're pleased that this seem to be one step closer to justice. But because of the corruption in Guyana, Rain spoke of that, corruption in the police force, not all the officers, we're not painting them, but corruption in this PPP regime, Tom. What's your closing remarks as we prepare 90 days before elections?
Well, let's just remember, we've got a family that's suffering. They lost a young child in their family, a beautiful young girl, and they're suffering. And what's made it so hard on them is they've pushed it looks like they barely sleep. If in my, I just looking at them, I'm like, wow, the father was outside the hotel. He refused to leave. He's been fighting, scratching, clawing, trying to do everything in his power to take care of, to try to bring justice to what happened to his baby girl. And it's just, you can tell it's just taking so much out of him, because the PPP, they're blocking the man. They're doing everything in their power to just make him suffer even more. Make his wife and his other children, his family suffer. The people of Guyana are in turn suffering because of this whole thing. And these guys don't seem to be aware of this suffering. They don't. They're taking it like this is some kind of made up tactic to defeat them in politics, like it's a game, when this is not a game. This is real life. And people are hurt over this. And the government is hurting people further by their actions. And so to me, we need to be thinking about the family. We need to be praying for the family. We should be supporting the family. And we should be focused on trying to organize and to get together to continue to put the pressure on this regime down there, to force justice on this. Okay, nothing violent at all. We don't need violence. Is not needed in this, because there's a power behind this and people can feel it. This is different. What's needed is people to be present. What's needed is for people to share and discuss. What's needed is for people to show up. If there's going to be a vigil, if there's going to be a walk or a march, show up. Don't have to be angry. Don't have to be mad. Show up, bring that energy, because the energy is already there. And I think that's where this goes. The fight continues. But this is a great day. This is a really good day towards truth, towards justice for Adriana. And I just think we need to keep the family in mind and pray for them and just really look out for them throughout this entire process, because it's been really tough on them, in my opinion, just looking at it from an outsider.
Thank you so much, Tom. Some people may question that outsider comment from you because they see us an honorary Guyanese. In fact, Wayne and I have already printed your Guyanese certificate. So and all of those listening in the audience there would agree with us. So elections around the corner. Wayne is correct. Guys, be careful. Be extra careful with people who are snake oil salesmen, so to speak. But we'll talk about that some other time. Tom Anderson, thank you so much. Mr. Wayne Caesar, thank you. Even though it's the last minute, you guys are willing and ready to put your suit on, your battle suit, to come and speak the truth. Thank you both. And
thank you, Mark.
Yep. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Tom. And to all of our listeners as well, wherever you are, thank you so much for your time. And again, just to recap, for those of you who missed it, the medical examiner out in Gwinnett County, that's in Atlanta, she said what you all of us suspected, and mind you, suspected, and all the folks were asking for, all we were asking for is a transparent investigation, and to ensure that if the autopsy is going to be conducted, that it should be transparent. Thus far in Guyana, as a result of what we have seen and how the government operated, is they just wanted to cover up the truth. That's the widespread perception in Guyana. And that is why the parents and the family members of and supporters of Adriana Young wanted a second autopsy. Her parents weren't comfortable. The government of Guyana and the police force and their supporters, some of those heartless individuals, were saying, bury the girl, let you go, just move on. Easier said than done. And obviously, they had something to hide. And they wanted this little girl to be buried, her body, just bury her, get the funeral. The government of Guyana probably promised that they're going to get her a nice casket and put her down, and that's it, so that they can rush into an elections on September 1st and possibly cover up the truth, and to save maybe their friends who participated in this murder, maybe. What we do know, though, is, which is highly suspicious, is Priya Manikchand has said she has never, as far as she is aware, she has never visited that place. She doesn't know the people there. And this is where another investigation should be launched. And the question should be asked, And mind you, I have noticed that Priya Manik-Chan, and we will talk about this, but she has evaded that question as to whether in 2020, December 2020, she attended a function at that hotel. She disappeared. All she's talking about is cash grants now. Another brainwashing of the nation, as though people are going to just live for the next 100 years with cash grants. No, it is a cover-up. We have never seen this minister of social services. She was there on the scene. She, of course, maybe had a reason, but they all wanted to get the family off the streets. Just get off the streets, go. Priya Manik-Chan hugged the father, Sebastian, oh, get off the streets. They just wanted to get people off the streets. It was reported that she gave him a phone. I don't know for what reason. I hope he takes the phone and just dash it away. That's just, again, my opinion. As I finish off tonight, though, these three pathologists, their work now is being questioned. And their work has been questioned from the beginning because of the lack of transparency. Now, we're not saying that these guys are bad guys. I agree with Tom. We're not saying that they're bad guys, but were they used by the PPP regime, by Irfan Ali, to cover up? And that's just a question. Were they used to cover up a crime? Were they used to cover up this autopsy? But Tom made a valid point too. We don't know whether what the government of Guyana or the police force is saying, whether it's accurate. That pathology, that autopsy report, sorry. We don't know whether it's accurate or not. But knowing the PPP regime, we have to assume that the PPP wanted to cover up the truth in this matter. And to even compound matter, they went all the way to Canada and they picked up some guy who retired, who doesn't know about forensic, is not a pathologist. He's just a detective. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking him. Detectives, they're good detectives, whether they're retired or not. But with such a case, why would you want to bring one man? And of course, we know Jack Dale is not accustomed to that. But on this occasion, sorry, that sounded a little weird. But on this occasion, Jack Dale is comfortable with one man. And Irfan Ali, they're comfortable with one man as opposed to a team of investigators. No. And so this one man traveled into Guyana to do what only God knows. When the police force, those investigators, most of those investigators are not to be trusted. And if Caesar is anywhere close to that investigation, well, you guys read between the lines. And so by the time that this guy from Canada got there, what do you think? They're gonna sit and wait for him to, they're gonna do what they have to do because they wanted to hear this guy from Canada to say nothing really happened. Now, how would he know that there was no foul play? I'd love to interview him to ask exactly what sort of investigations he conducted and how did he arrive at the no foul play. That's all Irfan Ali wanted to hear. That's all Jack Day wanted to hear from his man, from this man from Canada. That's all they wanted to hear. Again, part of a huge conspiracy. Because elections for them is around the corner. They don't want to interfere with the elections. They wanted to appear that they are doing everything that's good, when in fact it's the opposite. Now, thank you to this medical examiner who has offered some hope that there will be justice. Now, many of us are asking for the FBI to go to Guyana, and the FBI, they have a forensic team and so forth. What do you think is going to happen by the time they get to Guyana? All those things and the witnesses, they can't find them. They can't, those workers at the hotel, all manner of things. But someday, the truth will come out. Someone who witnessed that, someone of those workers at the hotel who witnessed that will speak. And maybe they're afraid to speak because they're in Guyana. If they're given the opportunity, look, if you were there at that hotel and you're watching right now, any one of the workers, and you feel that you have you have information, evidence. I'm sure you could walk into the US Embassy. I'm sure you could walk in, well, maybe the UK folks might turn you over to Irfan, but I'm sure you could walk into the American Embassy with evidence. Let them know that you have evidence, and let them know that you're fearful for your life. You never know. This crime has to be solved. I'm out of here. But before I go, I want you guys to listen to this again. Thank you to Travis Chase. Thank you to Carol A. Terry, medical doctor. She's a medical doctor, not a graduate of the University of Iflok. She's the chief medical examiner, and she was very transparent. She came out and she spoke with Travis Chase. Why couldn't those three pathologists who went to Guyana say something about the autopsy report? Highly questionable. Listen to this, Dr. Terry.
That just because I don't see any physical manifestation of trauma doesn't mean that someone cannot or was not murdered. There are ways in which you can kill someone and not leave any demonstrable trauma on the body. Basically, you just have to interfere with their ability to breathe. And in some cases, it may involve somehow constricting their chest or maybe putting pressure on their neck. And you don't always wind up breaking structures in the neck or bruising structures in the neck. So sometimes you can have asphyxial type deaths or deaths where adequate blood flow and oxygen doesn't get to the brain and not leave any trauma to the body.
Thank you, Doc. In conclusion, you would say that Adriana Young's death is highly suspicious.
Yes, I would.
Thank you very much for your time.
I was saying...
sorry, you heard highly suspicious. Highly suspicious. Now, she's not saying that Adriana Young was murdered. Of course, she's a professional and expert. She has to be cautious. She cannot jump to that conclusion, but she says it's highly suspicious. Listen to her again.
Just because I don't see any physical manifestation of trauma doesn't mean that someone cannot or was not murdered. There are ways in which you can kill someone and not leave any demonstrable trauma on the body. Basically, you just have to interfere with their ability to breathe. And in some cases, it may involve somehow constricting their chest or maybe putting pressure on their neck. And you don't always wind up breaking structures in the neck or bruising structures in the neck. So sometimes you can have asphyxial type deaths or deaths where adequate blood flow and oxygen doesn't get to the brain and not leave any trauma to the body.
Thank you, Doc. In conclusion, you would say Adriana Young's death is highly suspicious.
Yes, I would.
Thank you very much for your time.
Adriana Young's death is highly suspicious. Now, watch out for the spin. Watch out for the spin. The PPP regime, they're going to get a spin. They're going to want to go after the doctor. They're going to want to go after Dexter Todd. Typical of them. They were comfortable with the doctor that some Caleb or whoever, I don't know where they found that guy from, the family. That guy was a total waste of time. This is the sort of transparency we needed. And this is exactly what we got. The transparency that was needed all along. And so what else can we say here? That we are not surprised. Hey guys, elections 90 days from now, right? 90 days from now, elections. Just go out there, make sure you get your ID cards, make sure you're prepared to vote, and make sure you do the right thing and vote. Don't run out and vote out of emotions and all these things. The PPP is going to go. They'll have to go, and they'll have to be replaced by people who are patriotic. Patriotic, not wild oats and all manner of things, you know what I mean? Patriotic folks. And I hope the opposition guys get their act together and get this team going. At Jack Day's press conference today, he tried to downplay what Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, said about threatening folks in America who are entitled to their constitutional rights. But it's typical of Jack Deere. He said a lot at his press conference today, and we will leave you with just a message of what he actually said at his press conference today. We'll be back tomorrow, guys, but this is what Jack Deere said at his press conference.
And if you hear this and then go on bend your back, go on bend your knees, baby, shake it to the max. Will the DJ please turn up the bass to the max? Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max. 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 Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max.
Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Yeah. Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Yeah. Bad man, she love.
And if you hear this and then go on bend your back, go on bend your knees, baby, shake it to the max. Will the DJ please turn up the bass to the max? Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max. 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 Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max.
Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Yeah. Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Yeah. Bad man, she love.
You know, when he was done with that, all sort of diversion tactics, he went straight to the opposition, and this is what he said about the opposition. All right, my name is Mark Benchap. Just put a little smile on your face, and you know that's what we do in times of these rough times, these telling times in Guyana and maybe other parts of the world as well. All of you want change. All of us want change, and keep our fingers crossed. We will get change, and not an exchange, but change indeed. God bless all of you. Quite appropriate song for Jack Deere, right? Bad man. All right. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Same place, same time. God bless you.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%. Get your give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public base. Then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up. You done fed up. He done fed up. She done fed up. We done fed up. The people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup. Look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fair with the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment. And you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows. One set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up. You done fed up. He done fed up. She done fed up. We done fed up. The people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the
And if you hear this and then go on bend your back, go on bend your knees, baby, shake it to the max. Will the DJ please turn up the bass to the max? Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max. 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 Please just rewind, let me shake it to the max.
Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Yeah. Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Bad man, she love. Yeah. Bad man, she love.